Hello again, I'm Robert Fitton, and we continue our long journey through 1983, reviewing and rating albums from that year chronologically. And so we are up to the month of April. This is April 1st, 1983, when this album was released. It's Carlos Santana and Havana Moon. Now, doing this big, deep dive into 1983, just like the other years, whenever you do a year like this, it always gives you this great overview of all the styles and sounds and fashion of music that was coming and going. You got the older bands still trying to hang on, some of them keeping their sound, some of them trying to change with the times. You got the exciting new bands coming along, some of them at the very beginning of superstardom, some of them just like a flash in the pan. Carlos Santana definitely fitting into the category of seemingly existing on his own plane, not paying attention to styles, not jumping on bandwagons. There's definitely no big 80s synth sound on here. There's definitely no big electronic there's none of that. He's definitely just existing in his own universe, doing his own thing. And this is actually credited to Carlos Santana. Not the band Santana, so he is teaming up with different people here. Most of the time, it's the Fabulous Thunderbirds, who haven't really broken through and become really popular yet. So he's got Kim Wilson on vocals on a few tracks on here, including yet another cover of Who Do You Love, but that's fine. He's got his own vocalist on here, Greg Brown, contributing as well, not only to the vocals on a few tracks, but also songwriting as well. And then have you ever been like really high listening to a Santana album, and you get almost all the way through it, and then suddenly it's like, I'm hearing Willie Nelson all of a sudden. I gotta put the bong down. No, it is really Willie Nelson on here with the second to final track on this album. It's They All Went to Mexico. So yeah, Willie Nelson even providing a vocal for this as well. So it is kind of going off in different directions. A lot of it like the Tex-Mex music that mostly the Fabulous Thunderbirds provide. It also has what you'd expect from a Santana album on here as well. Country from Willie Nelson, and it ends with this really old style kind of Latin ballad as well that's sung by Carlos Santana's father, Jose. So yeah, a lot of different directions, but it all works for me. I really, really enjoy this album. I got this, about 15 years ago, 18 years ago, something like that. Loved it the first time I heard it. It's great that Santana can put out all of these different albums. He's got so many, and so many of them kind of have their own special little flavor going on, and this is one that for some reason, whatever, gets kind of overlooked. But there's definitely some magical moments on here. This wonderful instrumental called Mudbone that has just got this like nighttime kind of groove going on that's got this underlying excitement to it and this kind of pulse to it. Sounds like it would work well in kind of like a late night crime movie or something like that, or suspense movie or something. Again, it's called Mudbone. Definitely check that one out. Tales of Kilimanjaro is another great instrumental that really, really works as well. The album starts off with this song called Watch Your Step, which is a cover song by a guy named Bobby Parker, blues guitarist from the early 60s. Had no idea that was a cover song. But I did know that it had this guitar riff that sounded very, very familiar. I'm thinking, man, we're starting off by, kind of doing a little copy of Led Zeppelin there and Moby Dick. No, of course, it turns out that Led Zeppelin actually ripped off that riff from this Bobby Parker song called Watch Your Step. Because, of course they did. But yeah, it is the real song here, real cover version that's, not trying to like steal anything. It openly admits that it's a Bobby Parker song. And Watch Your Step, great as well. It also features a cover of a Chuck Berry tune called Havana Moon, but this is not, Johnny B. Good, Nadine, No Place to Go type of Chuck Berry. This is more of like, sounding like a Havana Moon type of song. It's all about this girl who's supposed to be coming back on a boat. Is she coming? Did she lie? Is the boat just late? Havana Moon. That's the Chuck Berry tune, so they cover that on here as well. But great CD, great album. Carlos Santana and Havana Moon. If you've got a lot of other Santana and you haven't gotten this one yet, I definitely suggest this, and I will definitely give this 4 stars. It was April 4th, 1983, when the Tubes released the album Outside Inside, and yes, this is the one with She's a Beauty on it. If you don't know a lot about the Tubes and their wacky Way Out Early stuff, most people just know them as the band that does the song She's a Beauty, and this shows up on this album. First song, side one, and yeah, so this is the one with that on there. This is Outside Inside. It's called the Tubes, but this is really lead singer Fee Waybill with members of Toto. Pretty much. And yes, Steve Lukather is one of those people. He's the guitarist that it seems like at this point everybody is calling in to do the guitar solo on their pop song, but this is not a pop band, this is a rock band. And so yeah, he's definitely got the guitar going on here. Toto is insanely huge at this point. They've just doing most of the music parts for Michael Jackson's Thriller album. Of course, they had their own huge album, Toto 4, with Rosanna and Africa on it, and that blew up huge. It sold, however many millions of copies, and so they're way in demand, and they are on this. And so yeah, you've got them, and the reason I think that I've heard that they are on this album so much is because, the members of the Tubes, the other guys, they like to party a lot, and they like to get wasted, and they like to get hungover, and then walk in the studio half in the bag and not be able to perform up to the standard of producer David Foster. Yeah, David Foster produced this. And so you've got the Tubes, who are known for being just completely off the wall, way out, wacky, and he's reined them in on this. It sounds like a nice rock band, pop rock type of thing. But I really miss their jagged, edge kind of stuff where it's kind of unpredictable, like way out, wacky, social commentary, sarcastic, whatever. There's not a lot of that here. She's a Beauty, is a great rock tune with great guitar in it from Steve Lukather. And, you've got other tracks on here that follow that. Not Again is the second one. And then Out of the Business is great as well. So this starts off actually pretty strong, but then it starts to dip as you get more into the album. They do a cover of the Curtis Mayfield written song that Major Lance had a hit with in the 60s called The Monkey Time. They got Martha Davis from the Motels, same label, Capitol, doing vocals on that. So all of a sudden, here's Martha Davis out of nowhere doing a song. And Fee Waybill shows up at the end of that, and it's The Monkey Time, and there's horns and whatever. And as soon as those horns come in, it's like they don't go back away. They're there for the rest of the album pretty much. And side two of this is just way too horn, jazzy, I don't know, just not for me. There's a song called Drums on here where instead of having all this cool percussion and showcasing different kinds of drumming, it's just people yelling drums. Wild Women of Wango might be a great title for a Tube song of the late 70s, but here it's just, I don't know, it's dorky. It's not necessarily funny or scathing or sharp or witted or anything. And so, they just polish these guys up way too much with the horns and the perfect studio musicianship and all that. That's never what the Tubes were really all about. But, first few songs on here sound great. Not so much after that. But I hate this cover, too. This is, it's got the hole here, and then the record label is actually what you're seeing. So, it just looks cheap. I mean, I get what they're going for here with the, but it just looks cheap. It looks like a 12-inch single or something with a little bit of the back of someone's head here. Super cheap looking cover. And but a huge fan. Like White Punks on Dope is one of my favorite Tubes, one of my favorite songs of all time, let alone Tube songs. And I wish there was a little more stuff like that on here, but they've gone beyond that at this point. They were kind of way out right before this in 1981 when they came out with that video album or whatever, where they had that Sports Fans video where Fee Waybill, they're in a locker room and the lead singer Fee Waybill just comes out completely naked, dick just out, just like, I don't know of another, I don't think there is there another rock star that has a video like that? Dick out, walking through a locker room. It's like, okay. So yeah, they were daring. They were different, and this is not daring or different. This is a 1983 pop rock album with a huge hit on it. The very first song, She's a Beauty. That's what this is. Overall, I mean, I like that song, but overall I'm going to give it 3 stars. But yeah, if you're looking for the real identity, I guess, of the Tubes, you are not going to find it there. If you're looking for some decent rock pop songs done super professionally and then polished and shined up by David Foster, then yeah, you probably will like it a little more than I did. Also in April, the band Fatback from New York City, or sometimes known as the Fatback Band, released the album called Is This the Future? These are the funky guys that have been around since the 70s. All kinds of albums, all kinds of lineup changes. Basically this funk band that I only know from this compilation that I've had for years called The Fattest of Fatback, which contains the song Yum Yum, Give Me Some. That's the first track on here. But it also has the song that's on here called She's So Fine. Girl is so fine, so fine. So that's really all I knew from them, but you know, I explored this album, and this is definitely in the electro-funk arena. You know, it's 1983, a lot of the R&B funk albums are going to sound like this, with the synths and the whatever, but this one still has more of an organic kind of sound mixed in there as well, and a lot of social commentary about things that people were talking and thinking about in 1983. Is This the Future is the title track. That's the very first track, you know, name-dropping Ronald Reagan in there, talking about, you know, pollution and the stock market crashing and all this kind of stuff, and talking about I used to eat steaks and caviar and now I eat peanut butter and candy bars. I actually would prefer the peanut butter and candy bars, but you know, you can't just eat peanut butter and candy bars. That's not healthy. But I'm assuming caviar is. I've had it once. I didn't care for it. But yeah, so you get that on the first track. You get this track later on called Spread Love, where the female vocalist Evelyn Thomas takes over. And she's all about this guy that's walking around with a big stick, and he's waving his stick around like a crazy person, but he's spreading love. Going to spread that love. You ever see, if you've been in like cities like St. Louis in the 80s, early 90s even. I remember I worked downtown St. Louis in the early 90s before I got into radio, and worked at a copy store. And there was always this guy walking around with this huge walking stick or something like that. This big, like, you know, staff, basically, and just, you know, he was always walking around just telling people how to live their lives, and I guess that's kind of what she's talking about. Anyway, it's kind of a wild song, and they this funky aerobics song, which is exactly what it is. He's you know, sounding like one of them Joni Cragen's albums from the 80s, where, you know, it's okay, everybody, get in place, and we're gonna do the jumping jacks now. All right, you're feeling good, don't forget to breathe. He's kind of got his own thing going on, but it's obviously a little more funky. It is the funky aerobics. Up Against the Wall starts off side 2. That's where you're just going to take all your problems, all the BS, as they refer to it, and just shove it up against the wall. Problems like, you know, where I work, they're retiring everybody off just so they can bring in the young guys. But I'm on to that plan. It's like, that sounds like a pretty good plan, man. Enjoy that retirement while you can, because these days, when somebody gets close to retiring, they usually fire them so they don't have to pay all that retirement and all that pension and everything, and then they're left with nothing. So enjoy that retirement. That's not something to complain about when your job is trying to retire you. It's in 2025 anyway. That's a win. Take it while you can get it. But yeah, there's some things like that that pop up here and there in the first track, and then in the Up Against the Wall, and where it's like, man, you guys don't know how good you got it. I mean, 1983, you know, that's actually sounded pretty good right about now. But yeah, so ends with the big song I was talking about. Well, the big for them. This Girl Is Fine, So Fine. Just your basic funk track about some hot girl. But overall, I'll give this 3 stars. I do like some of the music here is kind of dance floor burning, and they do keep it kind of organic and kind of lightly mix in the electro funk as well. It's not completely overtaking things. And I would love to hear some more of their 70s stuff, especially whatever album has Yum Yum Gimme Some on it originally. So yeah, Fatback Band, 3 stars for this. Is this the future? No, this isn't the future, actually. I'm speaking from the future, 2025, and the future's actually a lot worse than you're making it out to be. Turn around, bright eyes. It's time to talk about Bonnie Tyler and Faster Than the Speed of Night, released on April the 4th of 1983, of course, a few months later in the U.S., but I definitely prefer the U.S. cover of this. The UK cover, she's got a laser light going through her head. I don't know what it's very bizarre looking, but yeah, this one I prefer. But yeah, so Bonnie Tyler starts showing up on Friday night videos with Total Eclipse of the Heart, and that video was just so striking and so different. You got, you know, ninjas, you got half-naked people flying through the air, you got curtains blowing, and she's walking around, you know, just this operatic, you know, every now and then I fall apart, you know, in her raspy voice. I just thought it was great. And I knew who Bonnie Tyler was because I knew her song "It's a Heartache" from the '70s because it played on country stations. So I knew that, and I'm like, this is the same Bonnie Tyler. Wow, Bonnie Tyler's still around. I didn't know that. I thought she had all kinds of hits in between. I didn't know she had that hit and this one, and that was pretty much all she was going to do. But, I thought that was just great, that video and that song and all that. So immediately got the cassette tape. I think it was one of the tapes that I actually got with Columbia House. Remember that? I'll talk more about that for a different album. But yeah, I've got finally convinced my mom to let me get to go into Columbia House because my sister had done that a couple of times for years. And I'm like, oh, it's great. All you have to do is buy 5 more, You get 3 years to do it, and I'll just get those for my birthday. And you did the whole thing. But, Bonnie Tyler, Faster Than the Speed of Night is, I think, a pretty good album all the way through. I love her raspy voice. She kind of is a little over the top, but that's one of the fun things about it. And listening to this, I'm like hearing like Meatloaf, especially in the title track with the piano arrangement and the way her vocal phrasing is. You can definitely tell this is a Jim Steinman production because he's the guy behind the Meatloaf Bat Out of Hell, and he's the guy behind this. And there's a lot of similarities. And I'm thinking this, and by the time it gets to the third track, I want to say Going Through the Motions, that's later. The third track is Getting So Excited. Literally, Jim Steinman comes on here in this pseudo-female voice and says, I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, this is totally... the Meatloaf is not just my mind, this is definitely like a Meatloaf album with a woman singing. And then Jim Steinman doing a woman's voice. But... so Getting So Excited is about going to a swingers party. So didn't catch that when I was a little kid listening to this, but caught it later on, like, oh my God, this song I've been hearing is all about a swingers party, and everybody's getting so excited, and you've got this guy over here, and they're looking at this girl, and she's sweet talking him, and they're going to get busy later on, and it's all a room full of strangers. But Bonnie Tyler's just getting bored. That's how the song ends. She's like, they're all getting so excited, but I'm just getting bored. I'm bored. So, yeah, and then that's followed, of course, by the big song, Total Eclipse of the Heart, which you have to hear that in the album version. I mean, if you're going to get bombastic with that song, don't do like the little single edit. Do the full, at least do the video version, which is longer, or the full-on album version. But yeah, the whole album actually starts off, I forgot to mention, with Have You Ever Seen the Rain, a cover of the Creedence Clearwater Revival song, which you don't have to listen to that if you don't want to. She also does a cover of Going Through the Motions, the Blue Oyster Cult song, which I actually heard her version first before I ever heard the Blue Oyster Cult version, which includes a children's chorus where they're like, in and out and out and in and out and round, we're going through the... I'm like, what? In and out and round... Little kids singing that, okay. If that works for you, Bonnie Tyler. She also does a cover of Straight from the Heart, the Bryan Adams song, which had just come out in January. She's already copying it in April, so I think she even released it as a single in some parts of the world. But yeah, she's got her own Straight from the Heart on here, cover song of that. She's got a great song to start side 2 called It's a Jungle Out There, which I think that could have been a single. The only hit she really had in the 80s was Total Eclipse of the Heart, and then she had the hit on the Footloose soundtrack, Holding Out for a Hero, which I think that's awesome too. I love that song. So all 3 Bonnie Tyler hits I really, really like. It's a Heartache, Total Eclipse of the Heart, and Holding Out for a Hero. I wish she would have done more. I didn't really realize it until I'm doing this list, but I really like Bonnie Tyler. I've never heard any of her other stuff. Maybe I should. But yeah, if you like bombastic, raspy, over-the-top production, you got the Jim Steinman thing going on, you got Bonnie Tyler just wailing, you definitely need to check out Faster Than the Speed of Night. Rick Derringer plays guitar on this, and I will give the whole damn thing 4 stars. Also released in April of '83 is the debut album from Fastway. Now this is a band that has a lot of talent involved, a lot of people that had been with other bands. You've got Fast Eddie Clarke from Motorhead, you've got Jerry Shirley, drummer for Humble Pie, and you've got Dave King, who isn't really known before he goes and becomes the vocalist for Fastway, but later he would be the vocalist for Flogging Molly. So a lot of names in here. This does, this cover right here. This just screams 1983 with the checker pattern there and the Fastway like that. I mean, that really screamed. This is the perfect 1983 album cover. Although it does look like it's going to be some sort of pop or maybe new wave or something like that, and that is definitely not what this is. This is more like hard bar rock, and it's got this sound to it. There's no synths. There's no cheesy 80s squealy guitar, anything like that. It's just this really hard rocking bar rock, just cranked way up. And the way this is recorded, it sounds more like it's almost like a demo or like garage type thing. It's no frills, no like effects, no like it just sounds like it was recorded live in the studio. And I'm sure that's not an accident considering it was produced by Eddie Kramer. So if he wanted a different sound, he could have managed to get one. Eddie Kramer, of course, the producer, working with people like Jimi Hendrix and Kiss and all kinds of others, Cactus, but yeah, now he's producing Fastway. And they had a couple singles on here that were all over rock radio at the time. I didn't hear them until maybe like the later, 80s. Easy Livin' was the big one, and that is not the Uriah Heep Easy Livin'. They have their own Easy Livin'. Easy Livin'! She's never in a hurry, never had to worry. What's the greatest of these? That one. And Say What You Will. Say what you will. That's Fastway. But yeah, some other great songs on here, but this does lack a little bit of variety. Once you've kind of honed in on their sound, it's going to stay there. It's not going to vary, go off in this direction, or they're going to pop this kind of a song in there for fun, or they're going to have a little musical interlude. There's none of that. I think, 10 tracks on here. Every single one of them is just this hard rock and, like I said, bar rock type sound, no frills, and sounding like live in the studio kind of thing. I don't know if it was or not, but that's what it sounds like. This is not overly produced, like an 80s sound at all. And these guys would later go on to release a couple more albums, including doing the full soundtrack for the horror movie from 1986 called Trick or Treat, which I also have an original on vinyl. That one's a little more hard to find. I thought I was super cool because I've got an original of that on vinyl, and it's in mint condition. And then they turn around and re-release it, and now there's a reissue, and I'm not that cool anymore. This actually came with a bonus 7-inch, so I'm not very cool because I don't have that. And I rarely see this album with that bonus 7-inch. So I think it only has one side, one song on it. The song is on the CD version of this. But yeah, so don't have that. But Fastway, if you just like your rock and roll just cranked up and just rocking out and sort of sounded more like the late 70s more than 1983, then give these guys a shot. Really kind of torn whether to do the 3 stars or 4 stars. It's more like a 3.5 star kind of affair because it is, kind of similar all the way through. They're not exactly reinventing the wheel here. It's your basic rock and roll type of stuff, but they do it pretty well. So I will go ahead and give Fastway 4 stars. I'm always learning things myself by doing these videos. Recently, I learned that the band Sparks is actually not from England, as I assumed they were for all these years. They're actually from Los Angeles. They started off in the early 70s, had a few flashes here and there with popularity, which is the name of one of the songs on this album. Still going in the 1980s, and in April of 83, they released In Outer Space. So I'd never really heard a Sparks album all the way through. This was my first for that. I'll probably get around to others eventually, like I always say. But this one, very satirical, very clever with the lyrics. The music is very much minimalist synth 80s kind of stuff, so I'm curious as to what some of their earlier 70s stuff would sound like. I think they're more in the power pop vein when they're doing those earlier albums. But this one starts off pretty strong. It's actually, as I found out listening to the entire thing, it's somewhat front-loaded. The first song really, got my attention. Cool Places, where it features Jane Weedland from the Go-Go's, the bass player. She's on that too. It's all about wanting to go to the cool places, not the places where somebody asks a girl, if they have a light, and not the kind of places where, people do meaningless chit-chat, but the cool places. They want to go to the place that's exclusive and that turned them down last week because they weren't cool enough, but it's okay. This week, they're much cooler than they were last week, so they could probably get into the cool place. So, like I said, it seems like it's more satirical, and it's actually quite clever. You got the song, like I mentioned, Popularity after that one. Very catchy with the melody, and again, sort of in the same place, same vein as Cool Places, about, you know, having so much fun because you're popular and you have all these friends and it's great to go out to that great bar. Oh, what's the name of the bar again? They don't remember. All they remember is their friends and the good times because popularity is so wonderful. So it's kind of a thing like that. It really gives you a snapshot of the early 80s and where a lot of people's minds were, me generation and all that, and just wanting to party and have a good time. They're praying for a party in the next track. You know, the mom and dad want them to get on their knees and pray, and they do it all the time. They've prayed so much that their knees are scraped up, but they're always praying for a party. That's the kind of that's the kind of praying that they do. And so, yeah, Rockin' Girls a little bit later on, got some clever stuff in there. You know, he knew he loved the girl when she hates Hey Jude, the Beatles song, and well, he hopes, you know, she never causes him to have to go to the doctor, but, you know, he also hopes that he never causes her to have to go to the doctor as well. Now, that's true love, obviously, right there. All You Ever Think About Is Sex is probably my favorite song on here. Again, very catchy melodies going on, even though, like I said, they are kind of minimalist. It's just basically the synth tracks going on, but there's a little bit of melody, more melody in this one. All You Think About Is Sex, but hey, it's all right with me. Dad came in one time early and caught him having sex and just dropped dead, but hey, that's okay. All You Think About Is Sex. So like I said, pretty much front-loaded. If I think it would have kept up the momentum and kept up the cleverness that it promised in the first 4 tracks or so, you know, like most of side 1, side 2, everything kind of peters out a little bit. It kind of gets a little redundant, and it's like, okay, we get it. Let's build it up again. Let's come up with something memorable. And, you know, except for the Rockin' Girls song with the lines about Hey Jude and having to go to the doctor, not a lot on here. The final track called Dance, Goddammit. That's the name of the song. It does not live up to that title, unfortunately. So, you know, it's got a strong start, but a kind of a weak mid part and a weak finish. And so overall, I'm going to give Sparks in Outer Space 3 stars, but it does make me want to check out more of their earlier, you know, works and see what they're all about in the 70s. On April 11th, this album was released. David Bowie and Let's Dance. Videos for the singles for this were on Friday Night Videos all the time. And this was kind of my introduction to David Bowie as a 10-year-old. I had definitely heard the name. I knew he was strange. I might have heard a couple of the songs here and there, like Changes, maybe. Maybe Space Oddity, but that's about it. Growing up in the Midwest, I was not exposed to David Bowie. My brother certainly did not have David Bowie albums or 8 tracks. And as far as rock radio, even into the 80s, it was the same thing with Queen. Nobody played David Bowie around here. I didn't discover the classic period, you know, the Space Oddity and Aladdin Sane and all that, you know, all of it, really, until I had to go out and get it myself, just by going, I want some David Bowie. I want to see what this guy's all about. Going out and getting the CDs when they were reissued by Rykodisc, when I believe I was 19 or 20. So I was not exposed to David Bowie even after I started listening to rock radio in the late 80s. They never played David Bowie except for songs from this, and they never played Queen. And now that same rock station has, over the years, gone a little bit of revisionist history and acted like, oh yeah, Queen, oh yeah, we played them. No, you did not. You did not. You absolutely did not. You were playing Foghat and, you know, whatever, Leonard Skinner and whatever. You were not playing David Bowie, you were not playing Queen. So I'm sure growing up in other parts of the U.S., he was on the radio all the time, not here. So this album was pretty much my introduction. This was one of the first CDs I ever bought. So I actually never had this on cassette. I got this CD. This is probably about the 3rd or 4th CD I ever got. And yeah, so this album kind of divides fans, I guess at this point I've found that out. Starts off with the incredible Modern Love. I've always loved that song. Another one of those videos, always on Friday Night Videos, always on the radio. On my way to go out, on my way to stay in. Gets things done. I'll catch the paper. But see, I can't even stop. Modern Love. One of my favorite David Bowie songs. China Girl, I was always kind of lukewarm on. The Iggy Pop song is the second one. And then the third single is third, Let's Dance. Which I actually kind of prefer the video version, the single version of that. I think the 7-minute album version just goes on a little too long. But yeah, put on your red shoes and dance the blues. I think that was probably the first one that was released as a single, because I remember hearing that, seeing that video first. And then, yeah, just was like, you know, I just thought he was so cool. He just looked so cool just standing against the wall. Everybody else in videos is running around, trying to be goofy, being hammy and campy and whatever. And here's this dude, just kind of slick back hair with his nice clothes on, just kind of, you know, doing a dance song. You think everybody's dancing around. Not this guy. He's all like, put on your red shoes and dance the blues. You know, to the song they're playing on the radio. Just thought, man, this guy is not into his own music, but I thought he was still super cool. So yeah, you got that on here. You got Ricochet, which is a little bit different, kind of got a different rhythm going on. I obviously didn't hear that until I got the CD. Putting Out Fire, the song from Cat People, it's a different version on here. So a lot of great tunes on here, and only 8 of them. This is it's not, I guess it's short, because some of the songs are longer, but it only has 8 songs. That was kind of, you know, that was happening in 1983. You had, you know, 39-minute cassettes, whatever, albums, and, you know, they would have 8 or 9 songs, and that would be it. So yeah, this is a terrific album. Like I said, you know, if I had grown up with the Ziggy Stardust and, you know, Young Americans and all that, Diamond Dogs especially, I would have probably maybe had a different opinion of this, but this was my introduction to David Bowie as a full artist, and knowing who he was, loving the songs, hearing the album all the way through. And so, yeah, I got to give this 5 stars. This is, you know, I just love, you know, not only the big hits off here, but some of these album tracks on here as well. And so, yeah, David Bowie, Let's Dance, teaming up with Nile Rodgers from Chic to make this sound. He would only produce a couple of his albums. He did this one and then also the one from '93, Black Tie, White Noise. And just hearing Nile Rodgers' guitar mixed with Stevie Ray Vaughan's guitar, was mind-blowing to find out that was him, you know, because Stevie Ray Vaughan's not that well known at this point. And to find out later, oh, the whole time it's Stevie Ray Vaughan playing guitar on that. I should have known. It's totally, and then you know that, and you're like, oh my God, that's totally Stevie Ray Vaughan's guitar. Of course it is. It sounds exactly like the tone and the you know, it sounds like Stevie Ray Vaughan. And then I see the video, and it's David Bowie standing there playing the guitar with the white gloves. It's like, that's not you. So it's not like Stevie Ray Vaughan was in any of the videos. But yeah, David Bowie, Let's Dance, 5 stars. And yeah, super cool. And so that is going to do it for this particular video in the deep dive into 1983 albums chronologically. In the next video, I'll talk about albums from R.E.M., Sabotage, Naked Eyes, Robert Palmer, and Anvil, among others. So hopefully you'll be here for that. Please do. I definitely appreciate you watching this video and continuing with me on my journey through all of these albums. Some of them I've heard, you know, 100 of times. Some of them I've heard a few times. Some of them I've never heard at all. This has definitely been quite a trip that we are on, and we are just beginning, I guess about a third of the way through or so. So hopefully you'll continue on this journey. I'm Robert Fitton, and hopefully I will talk to you again next time.